Welcome to PodForge, a deep dive into unspoken rules. All right, so today we're diving into some of the less talked about aspects of climbing the ladder in big tech companies. Things like those unspoken rules that can make or break your career, the ins and outs of managing up to build better relationships with your bosses, and how annual review processes really work behind the scenes. We'll pull from sources like Lori Howard's insights on executive leadership, that Reddit discussion from Women in Tech about succeeding in corporations, and some practical advice on managing up from places like Culture Amp. It's going to be eye-opening, especially if you're aiming for that next promotion. So let's get into it without wasting any time.
Wait, hold on, Sam. That sounds super intriguing. I mean, I've always heard about these unspoken rules, but never really dug into what they are, especially in tech.
So, from what I remember of Lori Howard's article, it's all about how companies don't prepare leaders properly for the C-suite, right? Like, she points out that technical skills get you in the door, but leading effectively is what keeps you there, and organizations often skip the training on that.
That's fascinating because it makes me think about how many talented people might be stumbling just due to these gaps. So could you break down a couple of those rules she mentions and what they mean for everyday execs?
Absolutely, Jordan. And yeah, it's wild how these things aren't formalized. So based on Lori Howard's piece from her coaching site, she highlights that effective executive leaders in tech need to bridge this gap in leadership skills, like understanding that just being technically brilliant isn't enough. You have to navigate interpersonal dynamics and organizational politics. For instance, she talks about how companies fail to provide comprehensive training, which leaves leaders figuring it out on the fly, and that can mean focusing on soft skills such as building trust and communicating vision clearly. Let me think. One key point is that success at the top levels often hinges on your ability to lead people, not just projects. So if you're an aspiring exec, you might want to seek out mentoring or coaching to fill those holes, because otherwise you could be overlooked even if you're the most skilled coder in the room.
Oh, that's actually really interesting, Sam. It makes me reflect on my own experiences where I've seen technically gifted folks struggle in leadership roles. So, tying into that Reddit post from our Women in Tech, they discuss how succeeding in corporations often involves adapting to a more hierarchical culture, like when someone moves from a startup to a bigger company and suddenly has to deal with top-down structures. The poster mentions coming from a flat org where hard work and impact were directly rewarded, but in a mid-sized acquired company, it's about navigating performance cultures that might not be as transparent. That's wild, because it suggests that loyalty and fitting into the culture play a bigger role than we might admit. So how does that overlap with what Lori Howard is saying about executive rules?
You're spot on there, Jordan. And it's a great connection. The Reddit thread really echoes Howard's points by showing how unspoken rules can vary by company size and structure. From the post, it's clear that in larger corporations, success isn't just about your individual contributions. It's about aligning with the company's unwritten norms, like understanding the performance culture and maybe even playing the political game a bit. For example, the user talks about how in their new environment, respect and advancement come from fitting into that top-down system, which could mean being more strategic about visibility and relationships, similar to Howard's emphasis on leadership beyond tech skills. I never thought of it that way, but it highlights that for promotions, cultural fit often trumps pure capability. So folks in tech, especially women as per that thread, need to be proactive in learning these dynamics to avoid getting stuck.
Wow, that's genuinely eye-opening. It's like a secret code you have to crack, and it makes me a bit concerned about how uneven the playing field might be.
Shifting gears a little, let's talk about managing up, since that's another big piece from the sources like the Culture Amp guide.
From what I read, managing up is essentially about building a strong relationship with your boss by understanding their style and keeping them in the loop, which helps everyone succeed. The guide emphasizes why it's important for clear communication and reducing friction. So Sam, could you explain how this fits into career advancement and maybe share an example from, say, the Forbes article on showing leadership through managing up?
Exactly, Jordan, and it's one of those skills that sounds simple but can totally transform your career path. So according to the Culture Amp blog, managing up means proactively aligning with your manager's expectations and goals, like anticipating their needs and providing regular updates to foster a productive partnership. For instance, they point out that it involves clear communication to avoid misunderstandings, which is crucial in fast-paced tech environments where bosses might be overwhelmed. I was going to say the Forbes piece builds on this by noting that effective managing up demonstrates your leadership potential, such as by helping your boss succeed through thoughtful collaboration, and that can create leverage for your own advancement. It's amusing how something as straightforward as knowing your boss's working style can lead to better opportunities, but yeah, if you don't do it, you might miss out on promotions because you're not seen as a team player.
That's so true, and it makes me think about times I've seen colleagues thrive just by being on the same page with their managers. It's like an unspoken advantage.
Now, drilling down into annual review calibrations, which ties into the CNBC article on unspoken rules for success, they talk about how these processes are the real gatekeepers for performance ratings. From the source, it's about recognizing that success often involves more than merit. It's influenced by internal politics and how well you embody the company's values.
Wait, that's wild because the article implies that calibrations can be subjective. So how does that play into loyalty and cultural fit, as you mentioned earlier?
Oh, absolutely, Jordan. And it's one of those topics that gets people fired up because it reveals the human side of corporate decisions based on the CNBC piece. The unspoken rules for success include navigating these calibration meetings where ratings are adjusted based on broader company needs, which might prioritize things like loyalty or cultural alignment over just your output. For example, they suggest that fitting into the organization's unwritten norms can sway your rating more than your actual achievements, so capability is important. But it's often amplified by how loyal you appear or how well you mesh with the team. Let me think. This connects back to the Reddit and Suvides pieces, where unspoken rules in workplaces mean that promotions aren't purely merit-based. Instead, they're about playing the long game with relationships and understanding the microcultures. That's really concerning, as it could disadvantage people who are highly capable but don't navigate those waters smoothly.
No way. That's exactly what worries me. It's like the system is rigged if cultural fit overshadows real talent, and it makes those Suvidi insights from Chaos and Craft even more relevant, where he talks about how unspoken rules can either boost or hinder performance. He emphasizes identifying these rules to build a better culture, like ensuring transparency in how decisions are made. So pulling it all together, how can someone use this knowledge to actually advance their career without getting lost in the politics?
You're right to question it, Jordan, and that's the key takeaway here. Being aware is the first step. From Simi Dillon's LinkedIn post, for instance, he lists rules like waiting for permission or following processes, even if they're flawed, which shows that sometimes you have to work within the system while pushing for change. Combining that with the other sources, I'd say focus on building genuine relationships, like managing up effectively, while documenting your impacts clearly, as per the Indeed tips, to ensure your contributions are visible. Ultimately, it's about balancing capability with savvy navigation of these unspoken elements. So don't just rely on hard work. Strategically align yourself with company values and seek feedback to stay ahead.
Yeah, that's a solid plan, and it's reassuring to hear we can turn this to our advantage. It's like arming yourself with the right tools.
Wrapping up, I think we've covered how these unspoken rules, managing up, and review processes shape tech careers, and it's clear that understanding them is crucial for real advancement. Thanks for breaking it all down, Sam. It's given me a lot to think about for my own path.
No problem at all, Jordan. And yeah, it's been a great discussion. Remember, folks, the key is to stay curious and proactive about these dynamics in your own workplaces. To sum it up, from Lori Howard's rules to the Reddit insights and managing up strategies, success in tech isn't just about what you know, but how you play the game ethically and smartly. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time with more deep dives. Stay savvy out there.